Hello everybody. I thought I'd take a little bit of time and do this what I do different video that I had mentioned. I think it was in the last one. Anyways, things have been going a little sideways on me for the last couple of weeks, so I haven't got whole lot done. So my parents are back now, and so I've been busy. Uh, Getting them all set up and everything. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's we're we're getting back at it again now. But I don't. I'm just in the process of doing a bunch of wiring and getting the slide outs wired up. I'll go into what the deal with the inverter on a later video. It turned into a bit of a shit show, but shouldn't be surprised, I guess. Anyway, but I won't get into it now. Anyways, what I would do differently. So I made a little list here, and so I guess we'll just get right into it. On the slide outs, I would. My original intention was to have a 1/4 inch gap all the way around the slide outs. And the way I ended up putting the skin on and all that, I kind of ran out of that 1/4 inch. So the stack up of the aluminum and the skins and the trim that I put on it, it fits in there nice, but it's a little bit tight. I think it'll be fine. There won't be any problems with it, but it would be nice to have just a little bit more clearance there. So what I would do if I was going to do it again, I use 2.5 or 2 inch square tubing for the most part. 1/8 inch wall. It's way heavier than it really needs to be, but it's readily available, so that's what I used. Anyways, I would do 1.5 inch tubing next time if I was to do it again. Dimensions all the same, but just with 1.5 inch tubing, that would bring. So the inside dimension of the slide out would be the same, but the outside dimension would be 1/2 inch smaller, if that makes sense. Anyway, and then I would use 1.75 inch angle for the lip around it for the seals and everything, rather than 1.5 inch, and that would give me an extra 1/4 inch of space around the slide out, just in the opening. It would just make it just give it a little bit more wiggle room. Like I say, it's going to be fine. I've got if you remember when I did it, the wiper is a little bit tight. It works. It flips back and forth. There's a couple of places where, and I've seen it on other slide outs too. On my folks' fifth wheel, it's got a little lip there that wiper hits and flips it. So I may do that, but it seems to be they seem to be flipping back and forth okay. But if there was a little bit more, like there's an extra 1/4 inch there, they would flip that much easier. They're just a little bit extra pressure on there than what it really should. So anyways, that's why I would do 1.5 inch tubing. Just give it a little bit more gap. So that pretty much takes care of that. And I think I had mentioned when back when I was doing the slide outs and so rather than leave the outside 2 inch piece of original bus, I think if I was going to do it again, I think I'd cut that out. And I thought about it. I just decided not to do it. And in hindsight, it probably would have been better if I had. So I cut that out of there and just move the whole outside edge of the bus where the slide out is on the bottom here in 2 inches. And 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 then if you remember when I did the seals, I had to make uh, those pieces that kind of cut in and then back out again. I put them in the shrinker and stretcher, and I stretched the material and put the seals in it. If I'd moved the whole edge in 2 inches, I would have been able to run the just build it a little bit different and be able to run the slide or the seal straight down, same as the other three side, the sides and the top. I'd be able to do that on the bottom as well, and it would just make it a little bit just easier to build. In the end, it works the same, but it would just be a lot easier to build. And in the future, if I have to change the seals, it will make it easier to do that as well. So um, that that's why I do that. Anyway, so um, and then when I put the skins on, uh, what I did is I peeled the roof skin back and slid the outside skin, the new skin, up under it, and then took a hammer and a piece of 2x4 and brought the outer skin back over top of it after I put some sealant in it. And that's all fine, but I would break the top edge, the top inch. So the top inch, I just break it 1 or maybe 2 degrees, 1.5 degrees probably. And then because what happened is because it's getting into the curve, it wants to sit out at a bit of an angle like that when you've got it up in there, and then you have to push it down flat and square, which it went, but it has a little bit of a bow in it, which I'm going to have to get some adhesive and just push that up against the framework and let it set. And if I had just broken that top edge by an inch, I wouldn't have to do that. I did that on, of course, the last piece that I did. I figured it out, but this piece that's right here, you can't see it because of the camera. But anyways, I did break the top edge of it, and it went on perfectly. It sat nice and flat, and when I riveted it on, it didn't move at all. There's no tension on it. So I would just break the top edge of the skin just in a break, and like I say, 1.5 degrees, something like that, just so that it takes the tension out of it. It just makes it a little easier to install. The next thing that I would do different is, and again, I was going to do this and decided not to. I went with lumber instead. But if you remember when I started putting the floor down, I cut 2x4s to whatever dimension. So I ripped them to whatever dimension it needed to be to flatten the floor out. So it started at, I believe, 7/8 at the back, and it's going to be a full 3.5 inches at the front, because these floors taper on these buses, and because I got the slide out in it, I wanted to take the taper out. So that's what I had to do. That being said, what I would do next time is do what I was going to originally do and run 1 inch by 2 inch square tubing across and weld that in and support it down to the body of the bus. Again, it's going to work fine, but the floor moves a little bit, being that it's lumber, and I've got the insulation is into there. It's a little bit thicker than the floor, than the when I put the plywood down. There's a little bit of pressure on it, so it tends to want to bow a little bit. And so if I'd used 1x2 rectangular tubing and just laid it on its side, I did that up at the front. I was going to do that on the whole bus, but I went, lumber's quicker. So, and like I say, it'll be fine. It's just that if I was to do it again, I would do that different. I would just use the 1x2. It's solid as a rock. It doesn't move at all. You put your the 3/4 inch plywood on top of it and screw it down. It doesn't move. And right now it like I say, it moves a little bit. So it's once I put all the floor or the walls in and it's braced against the ceiling and everything, well, a lot of that disappeared. But the front section here in the living room and in the kitchen and that, there's no walls up here, so that it'll move a little bit. The next thing, where are we at here? So the next thing I wanted to talk about was these motion windows bus inserts. To start with, you can't beat the quality. They're top-notch quality. And for somebody that is not raising the roof, they're not doing all this construction like modifications like what I did, they're probably a pretty good option. But they're expensive. I put, it doesn't help that I'm bringing them up into Canada here with the exchange rate and everything. But the time I landed them here, the 4 windows was $5,500. I did the front 2 windows, drivers and passengers windows, the year before, and the 2 of them were over $1,000 for the 2 of them. Excuse me. And I still have 2 to do. So, and they're going to be another $1,200 or something. So, it adds up. And because of all of the custom fabrication I did, anyways, regular RV windows would have fit in there. I could have just built it to fit in here, and probably a third of the cost. So, I'm kind of torn. Like I say, you can't beat the quality. Like they're second to none, really. But they're expensive, and the reason I did it originally was because I wanted to still look as much like a bus as I could. So the original bus windows, well, that would help. Whether it was worth, it's going to be close to $9,000 by the time it's all said and done. Is it worth that? I don't know. Well, it's just one of those things you have to weigh and take into consideration. For somebody, like I say, for somebody that's building one of these, they're not raising the roof. They don't want to reskin the side. The factory windows are there. Well, by the time you take all that extra labor to change all that out of it, and the cost probably is not so bad. But when I had to make all the changes anyways, and then pay that huge amount of money for windows, is it worth it? I don't know. If you really, really wanted the windows, to look like a bus, which is why I did it, maybe it still is. I don't know. Anyways, I'm torn. So that's one of the things. I don't know if I'd do it different, but I definitely think about it more. I just went ahead and did it and never really. Well, for one thing, the price that I was quoted initially was 50% less than when I actually placed the order. So, if it had been, for instance, the quote that or the estimate, I should say, that he sent up when I first inquired about it, they were around $560, $580, something like that per window. Again, US. So, and when I actually placed the order, they were over 800. 880 or something a window, and that's quite a difference. And so like I say, you can't beat the quality, and high quality stuff costs some money. So, like a friend of mine said one time, if you want good quality oats, you have to pay a fair price for them. If you're happy with oats that have been through the horse once, it comes a little cheaper. So, um, you know, it's one of those things you have to kind of weigh and then make your decision. So that was one thing I wanted to talk about. The last thing is the slide out cables. Now I really like the slide out the cable system. It makes it easy to in the future to service because it's all up um, in the upper area. There's no it would have been put hydraulic cylinders and all that down below the floor would have made servicing a challenge. Not undoable, but like I say, a challenge. And plus, more stuff down in there, furnace ducting, all that stuff would have been more complicated. So, I really like the cable setup. The and I, if any of you remember when I was doing that, I was having some trouble making them work. I almost gave up on them, and then took another stab at it and kind of figured out how to do it, and they work good. But I never really thought about it enough. And what I should have done is, if you go back and look at the videos that when I was putting that in, I put the cables on top of the slide framework, the tubing that went across, and after, I'm looking at it here afterwards, and well, I should have put it underneath. And because now what I have to do is when I'm putting this flooring in, as you probably remember from when I did the videos on the floor here, I got to leave a gap for the cables to run in. It's going to work fine, and the flooring will cover it, and it'll be fine. But in hindsight, it would have been a little bit more of a challenge to put the cables below the tubing that runs across the slides run in, but not impossible, and would have made putting the flooring on or the plywood down a lot easier. No, I wouldn't have to leave a gap for the cables. Once the flooring goes down, it's not like I'm going to be able to lift that up and have access across there. I'm going to have to pull, if I have a break a cable or something, I'm going to have to pull another cable through. And that's the way these things are. They're you use like a Chinese finger puzzle thing. You hook it to one end of the cable and hook your new cable on and pull it through. So that's what I'll have to do. And either way, I would have had to do that, but being below would have just worked a little nicer. And then the last thing is again, it's I didn't leave enough space between the door, the new door that I built, and the slide out there. What I wanted to do is putting an awning on it, a 20-foot awning, and have the arm between the door and the passenger side slide out, and then so I needed probably 4 to 5 inches there, and I only have 2, and so I'm not going to be able to put the awning on that will cover the door. So that's kind of a pain, but nothing I can do about it now. I should have made that slide out 6 inches shorter. I think it's 8'6". I could have made an 8-foot slide, and that would have given me this much room between the door frame and the slide out. Now I've got that much, 2 inches. So that's just one of those things that as you're building, you can't remember everything. At least I can't. So, but again, it's fine. It's just, if a guy was out in the rain, you got your awning out, you could have the door open and in and out kind of thing, and it would stay dry. If it's now the awning's going to have to be on the other side of the door, and so that door opening is going to be able to get rain down there. So anyways, I think that's pretty much it so far. I'm sure I'm going to run into more stuff that I would, as I progress, and that I'm sure that I'm going to run into other things that I will do differently. And if there's enough of them, then I'll do another one of these by the time I'm done. Um, Hopefully not. Like I say, everything will work just fine. It's just, as you know, if you can figure out some way of making it easier to construct, why not? As long as you end up with the same product at the end. And so anyways, that's I'm just in the next couple of weeks here. I'm working on my. I had to pull the inverter out of the other bus, so I'll get into that in another video. I got a battery bank from out of one of our vessels at work that was not doing. They can't break down, like, or I should say, they can't lose their capacity on what we do on the water. So I was able to recondition it and get it back up to a good a good capacity. So I'm going to put it in the bus. So anyways, I'll go through all that in a future video when I've got a little more detail on that. Just running wiring for the slide outs and running all the wiring for the all the AC wiring. So I'll, as I kind of progress with that, I'll do another video and like I normally do. Apologize that I haven't been doing anything for last 3 weeks or so. Like I say, I was sick, and my parents came back from Arizona. I had some stuff to deal with there. So, anyways, hope everybody's doing okay, and that's it. Talk to you later.